Continuing with the theme here this morning, and I was joking with someone who's coming up at 8:30 as a guest this morning. Suzanne Hawkins is going to join us. I was sharing with her yesterday on the air. I was saying that I'd like to just get away from talking about Donald Trump for 4 hours every day, and so we're talking about a lot of state issues this morning on News Radio 1310 KLIX and News Radio 1310.com. It's 25. We've almost got a quorum. We're working on it with the Republican Party chairman. We've got the chairman of both Camas and Twin Falls counties in studio with us, and of course, Lee Barron now joining us from Camas County, and of course, Steve Millington is sticking around for a few more minutes as well. But I was told just last week that Lee Barron might be the foremost expert on redistricting when it comes to Idaho politics, which is going to come up following the census next year. Bill Colley with you too on Magic Valley this morning. So welcome.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me.
Well, right off the top, when we're talking about this effort, the big concern is we're going to be dominated by the major metropolitan areas. And you're looking at this and saying there's still a way to get a representation available that will at least respect rural Idaho.
The Supreme Court ruled a number of years ago that the legislature had to be populated on a population basis, and that's anti-Republican. I go to meetings quite often as county chairman, and I always stand up to the flag and I pledge allegiance to the republic, not to the democracy. And so when I hear people talking about our great democracy, I kind of cringe. And so what I've done is I've tried to understand the difference between a democracy and a republic. And what a republic is the word means representative. And a Republican is a person who believes in representative government. And our forefathers, as I see it, did their level best to make sure that minorities were represented in our government. And of course, the biggest minority there is you and me, the individual. And so why do we have government? Well, it's so that you and I, when we get into a fight, don't choke one another. There's a way to mitigate these things. So that's part of representative government. And so what I'm trying to do, and I actually have a blog about this called Saving the Republic, and try to understand what it is. When I went to high school, we had a course called civics, where we learned about government. I don't think they do that anymore. Nobody knows anything about government. But we were taught that the great democracy, and I can remember vividly they talked about the Athenian democracy and how great it was, and about the great orators that were there. I've since found out that they were called demagogues, and if you look into I guess they call etiology, the word demo means demon, I think. It comes from that. But anyway, one of the great orators was Demosthenes, and he stuttered. And so the story they had was in order to be an orator in front of the people of Athens, he went out to the ocean and put pebbles in his mouth and spoke above the ocean. So I've been tricked into understanding that this is the great form of government. But what democracy is everybody votes on everything. And I don't think that you or I or anybody listening to us is an expert on everything. So what we try to do is we try to find somebody who can best represent our views, somebody more expert than we are. So that's kind of where I'm going from here.
Now, I think that the subject has come up before. You could take, if you're trying to redistrict and balance things between rural and urban, you could draw districts like a big pizza pie and slice them all up, with these angles. But the courts won't let you do that either. That's probably not going to happen. Where if you went into Ada and Canyon counties and then drew these triangular shapes coming out of there, so you only left these little smidgens of each part of the city in each district, that would balance it between rural and urban, or at least suburban and urban. But that's not going to happen. We all understand that will never fly. So how do we continue to get representation in our smaller counties?
Well, what is the state government? The state government is a meeting place the legislature is a meeting place for the subdivisions of our state government. And we spent, better part of 100 years trying to figure out what those subdivisions were. And my little county, Camas County, became a county because it was unique. It doesn't fit with any of the rest of the counties. So it is a subdivision, and I maintain that so long as it is a subdivision of our state government, then it deserves to be represented. And that's exactly what happened in the United States. And probably the reason why the United States is great is that we have a state the size of Camas County called Rhode Island that has 2 United States senators. And then we have Alaska, which is bigger than the rest of the West, and it doesn't have enough people to have a representative in Congress. I mean, the genius of the American system is to be able to produce the will of the majority, but still represent the greatest minority.
Many of our states used to have it split up where you'd have the counties would be your state senate's seats. Each county would get its own seat, but court decisions have broken that up. That approach at least balanced the House. The House could be that, majority divided up in various districts, but each county, if you had 44 different voices in the state Senate, you would be able to, but as I understand it, court rulings over the years have struck that possibility down, and that balance is no longer there.
Well, this is the crux of my argument. As a matter of fact, what you're saying there is the way that Idaho used to be. Every county had a senator. There were 44 senators. My father was one of those senators, and his father was one of those senators. There were 44, and was one of the senates my dad served in. There was Don Samuelson, Cecil Lee Anderson, John Evans, and James McClure, Perry Swisher, a quite famous journalist from over at Pocatello. I mean, it was an interesting organization, and so far as I know, the only living person that was in that Senate now was the senator from Ada County, Mr. Bill Roden, wonderful man, and Bill and I have been friends forever. And I asked him here a few years ago. I said, "Was it better then or now?" And he said, "Then it was."
Can we do this again? Is there a way around these onerous court decisions?
I believe it is. I believe there is, and if I'm correct, the United States Constitution provides for it, and what we have in the United States Constitution is something that we venerate. You talk about the First Amendment, being a journalist, and my redneck friends up in Fairfield, they talk about the Second Amendment. They have the right to bear arms, but the Bill of Rights is 10 amendments, and the 10th Amendment says that if it's not specifically spelled out for the United States in this Constitution, it belongs to the states or the people. And so this reapportionment that we have was mandated by the U.S. Supreme Court based on a phrase in the 14th Amendment. And they read in a doctrine they call the living Constitution that the federal government had the right to do that, and it is not there. There is no place in the Constitution that even hints that the federal government can reapportion states. As a matter of fact, it would be like your child telling you how you're going to work it. The child in this government is not the federal, it is the federal government. The daddy and the mommy are the states, and so it's just they've just got it backwards.
So Lee, let me ask you a question. We currently have 35 legislative districts, and I'm sympathetic with your ideas, and we're going to see a tremendous need for that in the next 10 or 15 years. How would we go about getting to the point where we would be able to initiate a legislative apportionment process where we had one senator from each of the 44 counties?
We have to re-amend. We have to re-amend the Idaho Constitution, and I have an amendment here if you'd like me to read it to you.
So, constitutional amendments require 2/3 of the voters.
2/3 of the members of the House and the Senate have to propose it, but only a majority of the people have to affirm it.
What do you have written down?
Okay. Apportionment of the legislature of the state of Idaho, that we, the citizens of the state of Idaho, shall apportion our legislature following the model of representation in the federal system in the Congress of the United States of America, and inserting the guarantee of a Republican form of government as delineated under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution of the United States of America, so that the Senate of the legislature of the state of Idaho shall consist of only one senator from each county. And the members of the House of Representatives of the legislature of the state of Idaho shall consist of at least 70 members and shall be adjudicated county by county on the basis that the number of citizens in each county bears to the population of the whole state of Idaho, provided that no member may represent the citizens of more than one county, further that each county shall have at least one representative in the legislature, and further that no county may have more than 10 representatives. According to my calculations, the projections they have for the possible population of Ada County after the next census is that in this 70-man legislature that we have, the House of Representatives that we have, Ada County could have as many as 18 members. And further than that, it would be possible for Canyon County to have a further 12. So between those two counties, tiny counties, by the way, I mean, we're talking, what, 30?
Geographically tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From a geographical standpoint,
And
those two counties would almost control the
well,
membership of the House.
yeah, they would. I mean, well, it would, they would lack 5 of having a majority. And what it amounts to is it would be the state of Ada Canyon, or I call it the state of Treasure Valley, and the state of Idaho. And I've thought about that quite a little bit. If we're going to balkanize Idaho, and that's what's happened in California, maybe we would be better off to have a state of Ada Canyon and a state of Idaho, because Idaho is a far greater place and more lovely place than just Ada and Canyon. I mean, everybody that I know venerates our state capital, and we like that, but those people should not dictate to us out here in the sticks, as I call it, what we do. I mean, what do you in Twin Falls County know about Camas County?
Right.
And,
Right. Other than the Wrangler.
Yeah.
We've got to take a short break. We've got more coming up. Lee Barron is here. He's the Republican chairman from Camas County. Steve Millington, too, his counterpart from Twin Falls County. Bill Colley on News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com. It's 20 after 8. It's 24 on Magic Valley this morning. Wanted to mention we've got a guest in the studio with us, Lee Barron. He is the Republican Party committee chairman from neighboring Camas County, and Steve Millington is his counterpart in Twin Falls County. Also with us, Bill Colley, too, on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com. It's 8:23. We're at 28. Suzanne Hawkins coming up in a few minutes from the Twin Falls City Council. And again, you're listening to Magic Valley this morning. And Steve, you had a follow-up with Lee that you wanted to mention as well.
Well, one of the things that Lee keeps mentioning is we're going to have a constitutional amendment to reinstate the one senator per county and a much larger percentage of representatives throughout the state. And so how do we go about getting the impetus in the current Senate and House of Representatives to get a bill? I think you said we had to have both houses, both the Senate and the House, must pass the bill by a 2/3 majority
To put it on the ballot.
to get it onto the ballot.
Yes.
Now, once we have the ballot vote, it only requires 50% plus 1.
Yes.
But it does require a 2/3 vote in both houses to get it out and printed on a ballot.
Yes.
How do we go about getting this thing through the legislative process so that we can even vote on it as citizens?
If the citizens out here are always complaining nothing ever happens. Well, this is where the citizens can get after it. Now, I've suggested to Steve here that that the best way to get started is, of course, being a Republican, is to get his central committee to get on board with this, and then notify the people at the state level, and we have to talk about it because any attorney that you know here will tell you that if the Supreme Court has ruled, that's it. But the 10th Amendment says that if the Supreme Court rules unconstitutionally, and it doesn't say how the 10th Amendment will be enforced, but I can guarantee you that the president isn't going to enforce it, and the Congress isn't going to enforce it, and the Supreme Court's not going to enforce it. It's left to the states, who are the daddies and the mommies. And the people who control the daddies and the mommies are you people listening to this program here. It has to be done. Now, I get a lot of pushback about the senators. I think a lot of people like the senator idea, but they say, oh, it's just not fair for Little Camas County to have a member in the House of Representatives. Yes, it is, because it is a entity in the state of Idaho. Now, you can get rid of Camas County, but as long as it's a county, it deserves to be represented.
And that's the same argument that many people propose when they start talking about the size of South Dakota and the size of Vermont and New Hampshire. They basically, their populations, and those North Dakota's in that same group, their populations are less than the 720,000 threshold that it requires to have one member in the United States House of Representatives. Yet, because they are a unique governmental body within this republic, they are entitled to both representation in the Senate and in the House,
as they should be.
And so you're making the argument that that's the exact same formula that should apply in the state of Idaho.
Yes, I am.
You mentioned you've got to get the central committees and the parties behind it. I would think in the Senate, we only got a couple of minutes to go here, but I would think in the Senate it's an easy sell, because that means more members. That means more people can be senators.
Yes.
So you'll raise that number by 9, and by doing so, all of a sudden they'll go, well, hey, I have a friend who'd be good at this. It's not, no one's going to lose their job. You're going to have more people coming along. The sales is still going to be over in the House, especially with those urban legislators.
Well, I wish I could show you a map of the legislative districts in Idaho. I have a friend who lives south of Riggins, who represents people on Lake Pend Oreille.
Way to the north.
Yes.
In fact, Lake Pend Oreille is within 50 miles of the Canadian border.
Yes.
And it goes southward through this interior section of Idaho, clear down to Riggins.
Yes.
And Priscilla Giddings, I think, is one of the representatives in that particular district.
And Paul Shepard.
Right.
And
at the same time, we have another legislative district that goes from Montana on the east side of the state to Oregon on the west side of the state.
Yes, and I knew the lady one of the ladies that represented that district, and she said it was a 2-day deal to go across her district because she had to go across 2 mountain chains. Well, how's that representative? You see, it isn't. But the big kicker for this is that if you could see this map, it's a grotesque, unbelievably complicated gerrymander. The whole state is. If you give each county a representative, the gerrymander goes away, and you don't need to have somebody from Twin Falls representing Camas County or somebody from Camas County representing Twin Falls County. You need somebody from Twin to represent Twin, and somebody from Fairfield to represent Camas County.
We've got to wrap this up. You mentioned your blog. Is there a website that this is available at?
Yes, it's my blog is called The Order of the E4s, EPHORS, EPHORS. And the E4s were the biggest big shots in ancient Sparta of the First Republic. And I wanted to add, too, that for 600 years, it would have been like Gooding fighting Boise. Sparta fought Athens and won every time, including a thing called the Peloponnesian War.
We want to thank you. We'll keep up. We'll have you update us again sometime in the future. I've got to get to a break, and then Suzanne Hawkins will join us. She's a member of the Twin Falls City Council. That's on the way in just a few minutes on Magic Valley This Morning on KLIX with Bill Colley.